Welcome to Crunchy Stewardship. I'm Chrissy Rombach.
And I'm Katie Fiola-Jones. We're cousins on a mission to honor God by stewarding our health spiritually, mentally, and physically.
From ancestral nutrition and natural remedies to biblical finance and holistic health, we are digging deep into how God intended us to live.
So grab yourself a raw milk latte and join us as we unpack the ins and outs of Crunchy Stewardship.
Hey Crunchy friends, and welcome back to another episode of Crunchy Stewardship. You're here with Katie and Chrissy, and we are excited to bring you another episode today. We are going to be focusing on giving and generosity. We thought it would be a nice, fun follow-up to our budgeting conversation that we had last week. We talked all about budgeting and planning for expenses when it comes to our health and wellness and how to make some of those decisions. And then this week, we are just kind of following up with the concept and the idea of giving and generosity and the importance of it as believers and followers of Christ. But also, there are actually health benefits to generosity, which is just honestly, like even thinking that, it just brings like a smile to my face because you know that God planned things so perfectly. If there are actual physical benefits to something that also has spiritual benefits and kingdom benefits, because when we give, we hopefully are giving towards things and ministries that are helping to advance the gospel and the message of Christ around the world. And so there are just so many beautiful things about giving and generosity in general. But how cool is it that God also gave us some health benefits to it as well? And so we'll dive into a bit of that today. But before we do that, we're going to pass off the mic to Chrissy, who is going to share with us her random revelation of the week.
Yes, so my random revelation of the week comes again from my nutritionist who I talked with at my birthing center. She leads our nutrition class for pregnancy and labor and postpartum and everything like that. And she sent me a bunch of resources that I was kind of just reading through. And I found in one of them, one of the resources she sent was 5 things to look out for when reading food labels, which Katie and I have talked a bunch about this, like watch out for MSG, watch out for hidden sugar, watch out for preservatives, watch out for synthetic materials, things like that, for food dyes. Well, she identified a source of MSG that I was completely unaware of. She identified in this, file that she shared with me that MSG can still be present even if it's not listed on the food ingredient label. Because, according to the FDA, it does not require MSG to be labeled unless the ingredient itself is 99% MSG. So there are some foods that do naturally have MSG in them, but oftentimes these foods the MSG comes naturally in it, and so it's paired with other nutrients and things like that that help to counterbalance the addictive part of it, so to say. So that's not the part that we're concerned about. So that's like saying, oh, well, you say to stay away from sugar, but fruit has sugar in it. Yes, fruit has sugar, but also fruit has fiber and vitamins and minerals and all these other things that help to like fortify the sugar and make it not so horrible for your body. It's not just like straight sugar. So MSG is in a lot of foods naturally occurring, in addition to the other stuff that comes with it, which prevents you from having those addictive and endocrine disrupting effects from the MSG. But there are some foods that particularly have increased levels of MSG in them because of the way that they are processed. And this MSG that increases from the processing is not required to be listed on the ingredient label because it's a byproduct of the processing and it's not necessarily an ingredient that's added into it. So, some of these things, some of you, I'm sure, are very aware of and probably already stay away from them if you're trying to eat crunchy. But I'm just going to rapid fire this list because it kind of blew my mind, some of them. Carrageenan, specifically E407, whatever that means. Maltodextrin, which is a sugar. Citric acid or citrate. Any flavors or flavoring, including artificial flavors and natural flavors. Barley malt or malt extract. Pectin, soy sauce or soy extract, seasoning, bouillon, anything that's ultra pasteurized, anything that's enzyme modified or contains enzymes, which is like a lot of things.
Yeah,
Like-
citric acid alone actually is in tons of quote unquote like healthy products. And it's one of those sneaky things. I think I've talked about it before that when you Google citric acid, it sounds very harmless. Like it's like this acid that typically comes from lemons, but to mass produce it, it would take so many lemons to like get that specific form of the acid from them that they actually make it from genetically modified corn or I think wheat or something like that, and then pull it from there somehow. It's through their processing that they make it. And it's technically citric acid, but it comes from a different source. And so I have heard that
comes
people
from a
basically
non-citrus source.
Exactly. So it's like not, yeah, it's just so weird. And it acts as a preservative typically in foods. And so I've heard it across the board from most health podcasters and stuff that if it says citric acid on it, you can basically guarantee that it is the genetically modified corn version of it, unless they specifically say otherwise. And so it's kind of a bummer because citric acid is like you find it in so many things. So
It's even in like, this is like the healthiest product on the market and it still has citric acid in it. You know, all the more reason to just eat whole foods. The real best way to go is, did God create this food straight from the earth? Yes? Great. Have at it.
Yep.
No? Maybe stay away. Because the processing of all of these foods, like soy sauce, for instance, soy is a naturally occurring plant that God has created. Now, we have cultivated it and added a ton of pesticides and fertilizers and GMOs to this soy, which affect it. And then the processing of that soy to create soy sauce or soy extract then increases that MSG in it and creates that addicting effect to it and the hormone disruption. So it's very unfortunate, but thankfully we do have an answer and a solution to all of that. And that solution is to eat real food. And that's all I got for you.
Yep. Yes, it's good to be aware of these things. There are definitely certain ingredients that I slide on a lot more than others. When I see MSG actually labeled on something, I will not eat that because now I have directly linked that to severe headaches for myself when I eat products with actual monosodium glutamate in it.
That's so funny. I have linked it to tachycardia in myself.
Ugh.
Whenever
Goodness.
I have anything with MSG, I will be sitting on the couch and my heart rate's like chilling at 115. It's
Wow.
wild.
I should pay attention to that. I mean, again, I don't really eat it if I know for sure that something, like if I read a food label, obviously, like if I'm at someone's house and they feed me something, most of the time I'm not going to be like, hey, can I see the package for that hot dog over there? There are definitely times where I will, if people ask like, hey, are there things that your family doesn't eat, or do you have any allergies? I will generally let them know these are things that I try to avoid, but please don't stress yourself out like finding these things. But it also helps to like start those conversations of like, wait a minute, why do you avoid that? I'd like to know more. And And people are usually very like, I mean, how many times like have you had people over and they're like, hey, I have a gluten allergy, and you're like, great, we'll just make sure we don't put any gluten in our meal tonight. Like, that's totally fine. Or if you have bread, you also add something else so that they don't have to eat that bread. They can have something else instead. And people are usually very accommodating to that. And so I'm like, so I know that some people are like, well, that seems too weird to be like, I don't do this. But it's so normal at the same time because so many people have food allergies, and we're usually like, people are usually very accommodating to these allergies. But just because it's a specific ingredient that sounds really strange, people are like, I don't want to say anything. And I'm like, well, I do, because I want to feel good.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't usually tell people a specific ingredient because I feel like my list of ingredients that I avoid is so long and cumbersome that it can be very difficult for somebody who doesn't eat naturally to accommodate. And so I will usually tell people, oh, I do my absolute best to eat whole foods or to avoid processed foods. And by saying that title, it's kind of an all-encompassing sort of thing. Now, if they serve something that I usually stay away from, I'll still probably eat it, more so out of respect for that person than, and, just be intentional the next day to eat extra healthy, to avoid any additional
doing
toxins
like
being added to my body.
doing like a detox from our last episode or couple episodes, 2 episodes ago, where we talked about detoxing. If we do go to someone's house and we've had heavily processed food, the next morning, Wes and I will like only eat eggs with a bunch of butter because it just helps to like fortify your gut. And if we have any like kefir at that time, we'll have like a little shot of kefir in the morning, and just again bolstering up your gut and microbiome
when you do that, do you keep the egg yolks liquid? Or do you scramble?
Yeah. So my journey with eggs, I used to hate eggs. And then when I got pregnant, I actually started craving eggs. And I'm sure that probably had something to do with like a certain nutrient or vitamin that I was missing. And I started eating eggs more regularly. And now I really like them. But I don't like when they're like very eggy, if that makes sense. So I like them when they're like fried to the point where they're like crispy. Almost. So I kind of like half scramble them up. I kind of like crack my egg with the full yolk in there, and then I kind of break the yolk so that way it's kind of mixed in, but I don't necessarily scramble it. Does that make sense? And then I like fry it. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's times
I
where
only
Wes
asked
has
that
like
question because I know that like having an egg over medium or even over easy actually has a few more health benefits than cooking the egg all the way through. Mm-hmm. So I don't exactly know what it is. I haven't looked into it. I eat my eggs according to my feels every morning. Yeah. They're different every single morning.
I do know that because actually one of the things that I have learned is one of the best first foods that you can give a baby is like runny egg yolk. And because it's like easy, obviously. Yeah, that was one of Malachi's first foods. And I know some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it because there could be so many egg allergies. But I don't know. We just weren't really afraid of allergies at all.
They've also done some research in introducing allergen foods early helps to prevent those allergies from forming.
Yep.
So it's like eggs, peanut butter, nuts in general.
Fish.
Obviously, I'm not going to give my baby a whole almond at 6 months old. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, my
like
doctor.
A recipe for disaster.
Our doctor recommended doing like a little dollop of peanut butter on your pinky and then just letting the baby like suck it off. And so, yeah, we did that with Malachi, and he likes peanut butter. And he loves eggs. He eats eggs every morning. He likes his egg yolks runny. He does not like crispy eggs like Mama. And so if I accidentally overcook them, I'm like, I guess this is Mama's egg, and then I'll make another one for you. Okay, well, let's get into our topic. Today we're talking a little bit more about money and generosity and giving and things. I had an idea, Chrissy. I wanted to start this episode kind of like continuing our conversation from last week and then transitioning a little bit into generosity more so. But I'd love to have a moment of crunchy confessions. And I'd love to know, have you ever purchased something that was crunchy that you regretted or didn't find as much benefit from, or yeah, like basically like you wasted your money on this like healthy thing?
Definitely. I wasn't prepared for this question. You didn't give me time to come up with my answer.
I know. Well, then maybe I'll share mine first because I did have at least one thought. And I actually came up with this because I was randomly scrolling on Facebook the other day and someone posted in one of the Crunchy Facebook groups I'm a part of that they said like, you know, Crunchy Confessions, what thing have you purchased that you totally regretted or didn't find benefit in from? Or, I mean, people even were like sharing things that they purchased and would like to keep purchasing, but it's just too expensive and they like can't keep up with it. So one thing that I have purchased that I'm like, I don't know if this was worth it. And thankfully it was not very expensive, but a tongue scraper. So I have heard a lot of benefit from like, you know, doing tongue scraping and like getting off all the bacteria and getting off like food and things that are stuck. And they're super inexpensive. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just like buy a pair on Amazon. And Wes has like maybe used his once. And then I used mine a decent amount in the beginning, but I forget often because it's just not a part of my normal dental routine, like cleaning routine. And yeah, I just like don't really use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did I buy this?
What's the difference between scraping your tongue and brushing your tongue?
It's supposed to like actually pull things off versus like sometimes when you just brush it, it doesn't. I don't know. There was a dentist the one dental guy, I think the account was called Ask the Dentist, and he talks about tongue scraping.
Not Weston A. Price?
No, not Weston A. Price, my favorite dentist. This is my second
That's
favorite
funny.
dentist who talks about this.
Interesting. Okay, so now that you said that, there are actually two items. The one I think I've actually mentioned on here before, but I continued to buy it, even though I didn't love it. It was my conditioner from Avalon Organics. When I first switched to the natural conditioner, I really despised how it like didn't make my hair feel silky smooth immediately upon putting the conditioner in my hair. And I felt like my hair was just a little bit more stringy and a little bit more frizzy on a daily basis. But then I ran out of conditioner and I didn't feel like doing more research because I needed conditioner and I didn't have time. So I just bought another bottle of it, but I got a different scent. And I just like glanced at the ingredients when I bought it and I was like, okay, ingredients are still good. We'll give this scent a shot. And I like the second one better. It's the lavender scent rather than the thickening vitamin B complex, whatever I got the first time. It's better. My hair is just like normal now. Like it's not exceptionally shiny. It's not exceptionally frizzy. It's not exceptionally stringy. And one nice thing I have actually noticed from using long term now, is I went from when I used Pantene in college, having to wash my hair every single night, to now I wash my hair, I think, maybe every 4 days, which is pretty impressive to me because I didn't even try to do that. It kind of just happened through using the more natural ingredient things. So that was one. Second one that I got that wasn't like uber crunchy, but it was more so on like the more natural ingredient side and not as toxic was, and we actually didn't finish using this one. We just threw it away. It was the Squatch deodorant. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like big Squatch, Sasquatch. I don't know. It has a brown bottle. Max used it for a while, for literally a week, and then all of his shirts got pit stains in them. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe it's just a you problem. So I was like, I'll finish it up. And then all my shirts got pit stains in them. And I was very frustrated and worked to high heavens to get the stains out. But that deodorant went in the trash. So
What deodorant do you use now?
I actually just switched to a new one. It is sold at Whole Foods, and I love it. It's called Cleo, something and Cleo and Cocoa. It's called Cleo and Cocoa deodorant. It actually does a really good job at masking odor throughout the day. On extra sweaty days when it's like 105 degrees outside with like 90% humidity, I do have to reapply around 3 o'clock.
That makes sense in any situation.
Yeah. And maybe if I work out, I'll have to reapply it. Quite honestly, I started using it at the beginning of pregnancy and haven't really done a super intense workout since becoming pregnant. Mm-hmm. Because that just doesn't seem desirable to me at this point. Mm-hmm. But it's great for like my normal day-to-day of like going to work. I mean, like I'm outside half the day during work anyways. Max and I go on walks in the evening, and I'm fine wearing it. Yeah, I love it. Much better than the Squatch deodorant that we got. If anyone knows what I'm talking about with the Squatch deodorant, you can maybe comment, let me know what it's actually called, because I don't remember. I didn't like it.
I had a deodorant too that left pit stains, and I am also failing to remember what it was. It was a green colored deodorant, like the deodorant itself I think was green, or maybe the bottle was green. I don't remember, but same thing. I don't think I ended up finishing it. And the only reason I started using that was I did run out of my favorite deodorant, that is my clean natural one that I use now. And I didn't realize that I usually buy like 2 or so at a time. So that way I don't have to like scramble to, get it the next time. And I thought I had another one. Anyway, then I had this leftover one that I had from a while ago. So I was forced to use it until my other one came. And yeah, same thing. It gave my shirts all pit stains, and it was unfortunate. Yes. But my deodorant that I use now is Little Seed Farms, and it is different than regular deodorant. It's not like a stick that you roll on your armpits. It's actually like a cream that you like wipe onto your armpits. So it's like different. Definitely like takes time to get used to. But
does it get stuck to your fingers?
I mean, kind of. They give you, if you want to use it, like a application, kind of almost like a popsicle stick thing. I don't even know how to explain it, but I actually find it harder to apply it like that. And I don't know. It's kind of like putting on like face cream or something, where you just put it on, and then if there's residue on your fingers, it's not like, deodorant. It's more of like a lotion.
Okay.
Or like a face cream consistency, maybe a little thicker than both of those, but it's not like deodorant where it's like almost like powdery
and
gross.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I'm following.
Yeah. Okay. My last crunchy confession that I wanted to share was a recent purchase that I actually saved up for this, but then decided to return it because I just couldn't stomach how much I paid for it, because I was like, I know I saved to buy this, but I'm like, I still couldn't do it. I have been really wanting to keep switching to more organic cotton clothing. And I've been doing that with some dresses.
That is an expensive feat.
Yes. And so again, like I've been saving up here and there for like replacing certain pieces of clothing. And I've purchased a few dresses and some shorts and shirts, and I've been really, really enjoying them. I buy most of them from Pact, P-A-C-T.
Which, by the way, are sold at Whole Foods.
No kidding. I didn't know that. Not that I have a Whole Foods near me, but...
Well, I do. And a lot of our listeners do, I'm sure. So.
Yes, I do not. I don't even know if they have one in Traverse City. Maybe they do. Anyway, so I've been buying some things there, and I finally saved up to buy like their 5-pack of organic like 100% organic cotton underwear. And yeah, I just purchased it recently, and I checked to make sure like what their return policy was in case it was like the wrong size or whatever. And they fit fine. But I was like, man, these are so expensive. And I couldn't keep them because I was like, these underwear are it's like, I think it's like $65 for the pack. But then when you pay for shipping and taxes, it came out to like 70 something dollars. So I'm like, again, I had saved up for these knowing that it was going to be this expensive. Like I knew that. But for some reason, I got them and I'm like, I just can't do it. I just don't.
You know where
I don't
you
want to
need
walk
to
around with
look?
expensive undies.
You know where you need to look is Quince. Quince. I bought organic underwear from them. Unfortunately, they were the wrong size. And from a personal perspective, I didn't even honestly look at the return policy because my mom always told me growing up, you never return bathing suits or underwear after you've worn them because it's disgusting. And so I got these underwear and they were the wrong size and it made me very sad. And so couldn't wear them. But I also got Max like a 5-pack, and he likes his. He enjoys them. He does say like they're not as comfortable as his American Eagle underwear.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, that's because it's fully polyester versus cotton. And sorry about it.
Now, okay.
He's grown to like them.
I do think I looked into them at one point. Do you know if they're actually 100% cotton? Because I feel like when I looked them up, it wasn't 100%. And so this is where I made my kind of like my concession of the ones that are 100% cotton, and especially organic cotton, are super expensive. But I ended up returning the ones that I just purchased from Pact, and I ended up getting a pair of organic cotton ones from excuse me, from Sam's Club. They're made by Gap, but they're like 95% organic cotton and then 5% spandex.
Yes. You know, now that I'm looking at, I just Googled Quince. They are 95% cotton and 5% spandex. I think the spandex is in like the seams.
The band, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
and
like, to me, I'm like, that is so much better than wearing full polyester, and I'll take it if the 5-pack is going to be $35 versus $65.
Exactly.
Wow,
so
did you hear that thunder?
No, but did it also lightning? Because I feel like I saw a flash.
Oh, yeah, it's been lightninging this whole time.
Wow.
And it's like pouring outside, but that thunder was so loud.
Wow. That's wild.
That's crazy.
No,
anyway,
I couldn't hear it.
Okay.
But yes, that is where I literally returned them after I like tried it on. And I was like, and I left them on my dresser for so long, and I was like, no, I can't do this. They're so expensive, and
I cannot wear $65 pairs of underwear.
I'm just like not that fancy. So again, even though I saved up for it and there's definitely things that I'm like, this is so expensive. I can't believe I own this and I bought this, but it's like, I saved up for it, but I feel good. Our air filters are one of those things. They're so expensive. They're like $800 each. And I'm like, this is expensive.
Those air filters on my baby registry.
Yes. So I love them, but they were a pretty penny, and it kind of hurt to buy them. But then I was like, no, I love them and I feel good with them, but the underwear I could not do. Okay. Let's stop talking about undies now.
We're 30 minutes into the episode and
talking about all
going
these
to
things.
Start the main topic for today's episode.
Yes. Why don't you kick us off with giving and generosity and
giving healthfully. So as I was reflecting on last week, Max and I went to a conference and they were talking about support raising and giving all together, unlike the mindset to have when raising support to go on a trip or raising your own salary or anything like that. And also the mindset to have when giving to people who are going on a trip or raising their own salary or just giving in general. And it really got me thinking about kind of the heart behind giving. And it kind of clicked, and I was like, wait a minute. So much of health in general is your mindset and your heart posture coming to something. As we've talked about before, if you're trying to make all these changes and you're getting so overwhelmed and stressed about it, it's going to be more destructive for your health than the changes in eating naturally and getting rid of the preservatives and toxins in your life would actually benefit you, because the stress counters that. And so similarly with giving, the Bible gives us a lot of health insight into how giving affects our health overall and benefits us. So the first one that immediately comes to mind when I think about this is the heart of a cheerful giver. In 1 Corinthians 9:7, it says, "Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." And I just kind of sat and meditated on that for a little bit, and I was like, okay, but why does God love the cheerful giver so much? So much more so than a reluctant or someone who's giving out of compulsion to do so. And I think from my perspective, it goes back to God loves when we choose him, even though he loves us unconditionally overall. But when we choose him and we choose to follow him, those actions are what he loves. He says he loves when we follow him and hates sin. So he hates anything that goes against himself. And so giving out of compulsion or giving begrudgingly would really be against the Lord because of our heart posture. He sees and cares about our heart posture. And so it made me think, why does God care so much about our heart posture? And whether it was God's intention, well, it probably was partially God's intention, that our heart postures really would affect our overall health and well-being, because he wants his people to be healthy and to be able to do the work that he has set before them to do, the good work for the glory of God, And a lot of that work, you really need to be healthy in order to do it. So that was the first thing that I really thought of when I started thinking through this. And then I kind of did a little bit of a deeper dive of the heart posture behind giving. And in Acts, it says that it is more blessed to give than to receive, is the words that Jesus said himself. And the thought of it's more blessed to give than to receive, then clearly the blessing that I receive from giving is greater than the blessing that I receive from receiving, whatever it might be. And I have to say, personally, in my life, that has just been so true. It makes me think back to this story, and I don't know if I'm going to share it. We'll just share it anyways. So, in our family, I am the saver, Max is the spender, but I am also the one that has a very swayable heart. And so when somebody is on stage saying they need money, I'm like, here you go. And Max is like, no. So if that gives you any perspective on our two perspectives on money. And at one point last year, the Lord put it on Max's heart to give a significant sum of money to our pastor who was going to plant a church in a different city. And it was a large sum of money that we had originally planned what to do with it. And then our plans changed. And so we had this money sitting in a savings account, and it didn't have anywhere to go yet. And we very easily could have reallocated it somewhere else. There's always somewhere to put the money, But we just hadn't had that conversation yet. And so he sat on this decision for 3 weeks and didn't tell me about it. He was like, I feel like the Lord is telling me to give this sum of money, and I don't really want to. It's kind of big, and I don't know what Chrissy's going to say about it. Full well knowing that I'm the one being like, oh, they have a need? Okay, here you go. That's just how I am. And so he sat on it for 3 weeks. And then in the middle of church, of course, they did a sermon series on giving. Not even a sermon series. I think it was just like a singular sermon that the pastor mentioned giving. And he leaned over to me. He's like, hey, like in the middle of service, and whispers in my ear. He's like, God's been telling me for 3 weeks to give this much to these people for their church. No, it wasn't even for their church. It was for their personal expenses as they were moving. Like,
Wow.
Not for the church itself. And I literally looked at him and I was like, okay. Just like did not think about it. I knew we had the money in that account and it wasn't allocated to anything at that time. And so I was like, all right, whatever. And he's over there kind of freaking out. Like, there's so many other places we can put it, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we go up to our pastor after service and we told him, hey, the Lord has put it on our hearts to give you this sum of money. And he said, no way, seriously? And we were like, yeah, why? And he said, my wife and I just sat down last night and we are that exact amount short to be able to move.
Wow.
Like in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we were just baffled. And I kind of think back and I'm like, wow, the Lord knew that Max was going to sit on this decision for 3 weeks. And so he started the thought in Max's mind like 3 weeks prior to our pastor even realizing that he needed this amount. And overall, I have to say, like, the entire rest of the day, I was kind of just like on cloud nine. Like, the rest of the day just felt so much better because we were able to fulfill that need so specifically. And it was so obvious that it was from the Lord and that God ordained all of it and used us to further advance his kingdom. And so that's just like a little personal testimony on like the Bible verse that says in Acts 20, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And yes, they were blessed to receive that sum of money, but it was more like a relief to them. Whereas for us, it was like a encouragement and like a spurring us on to continue to do things like that kind of thing,
Yeah, I have seen and heard of so many testimonies of people stepping into faith and giving and then God showing up in really cool ways. And so I started coaching with Seed Time now, and I've been helping with this program called Mission Driven Millionaire. And it's just this idea of like being on mission, getting your finances totally in order so you can just continue to give and bless and just be an outrageous giver all the time, constantly. Not when you become a millionaire, but have this mindset of like, yes, I have the money to be able to participate in gospel advancement. And there have been a lot of really cool testimonies coming from it where people started building budgets pretty much for the first time in their lives. And then because now they're like actually stewarding their resources, they realize they have a lot more money to be able to actually give. Like people come to us and they're like, oh, like I don't have money to give. Like I barely have money to pay my bills. And then they build a budget and they build that margin in their finances. And they're like, oh my gosh, I actually have hundreds of dollars that I really like. They're going to things that I don't need, or I've been throwing them out the door at these different things that I didn't really realize I was spending this much money on. And then you actually have that freedom to do that. I mean, when Wes and I first built a budget the first time, like many, many years ago, I tracked my finances and I saw that I was spending like hundreds of dollars on like little coffee runs. Because at the time I was working as a property manager and I was driving around the city. I would be driving like 100 miles a day on a company car. And my office was my car basically, because I was like, all around the city. And so I
Maybe
loved
that's
stopping
silly.
at coffee shops and buying a coffee and maybe a little muffin or a snack or something like that. And so it would be like $5 to $10 a time. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I was doing that very consistently. And in my mind, I was spending like maybe $100 a month, but it was closer to like $400 a month. And I was like outraged at myself, like how much it actually was. And because I just never knew where that money was going. Like I didn't understand how much it was because I had never actually tracked it. And then once we did that and actually set a budget, we realized we could actually give more, which we were giving, but we weren't giving as much as we would have liked to at the time. And so we were able to give more, and we were also able to like increase, because this has been really important to us, is we love hosting people, but that also means that your grocery budget is larger too, because if you're providing lots of meals for people, other than just who's in your household, your grocery budget goes up. And so we increased our grocery budget many years ago because of that, because we just wanted to provide meals and a place for people to come and hang out and have, meaningful conversations. And we still do that now. And so it's just like understanding where your money is going so that you can have that margin to then give more generously. But we have our regular church giving that we do on a monthly basis, but then we also created what we call like a blessing fund. And so we actually have like a line item in our budget that is just designed to give away how we see fit. Like it's not like, it might be, that missionary who comes to church and they're like, hey, we are needing funds for whatever. Or it could be someone who like doesn't have money to pay for gas. And we're like, we just want to bless this person with, $100 to go get a tank of gas, or, just wherever the need is. It just gives us a little bit more freedom in the month to give. And actually, what was actually really fun was last month, we hadn't given that money away yet. And it was at the very end of the month. And we were like, we still have like $100 sitting in this specific budget account. What should we give? And so or where should we give this money? And it was so fun to just have that conversation, to be like, where have we seen a need? It like helps keep you more alert to the needs of others, and even just like different ministries that are on your heart that month and stuff. And so it's just like fun to have those conversations and be able to give more. And like when we reworked our budget, when we moved into our house, that was the one thing, like both of us were like, we want to be able to give more. And so people that we were supporting, we were able to increase those amounts and stuff. And so it's just like, it's a lot. There's a lot of joy in it. But what's also interesting as a money coach is having these conversations with people who reach out, obviously sharing lots of good testimonies, but I actually got an email today that this guy was asking specifics on how much he should give / like when he should give / should he give before or after taxes, and he owns a business, and should he be giving from the business and how much, and should it be after the business expenses, and all these things. Like it was very like all these very technical questions, basically like wanting to know how to like do it all accounting wise. And I responded to him with this nice video message. I like to send video messages because it seems a little bit more personal than just like a little email, right? And so I sent him an email basically saying first off, I think it's awesome when people are asking these questions, that you want to be giving, you have that heart for generosity. But at the same point, I don't know that God particularly really cares about the nitty-gritty accounting details, but rather he wants to have your heart in the right place. And so if you're asking, should I give before or after taxes? Because if you give after taxes, you're going to be giving less. And that sounds better to you because then you'll have more money to do other things with. Versus if you give before you pay taxes, it's going to be a larger amount if you're doing it percentage wise, right? So if you're thinking about it like 10% or whatever it is that you feel called to give, before taxes, it's going to be a larger amount. But after those taxes have been taken out, it'll be a smaller amount from your profits. So if your heart posture is that, then maybe God is actually calling you to give before taxes are taken out, because he really wants you to trust him that he will continue to provide. Your expenses will get taken care of. You will still have enough, so it really comes down to where your heart is at with the giving and the generosity versus, am I doing this exactly right? Because if you're thinking about it like is God going to judge me for doing it incorrectly? That's having like an old covenant mindset, right? Where it's like, you must give 10%. It must be from your first fruits. And then not only that, not only were you supposed to be giving the 10% tax, or 10% tithe, like you're giving to the church. Tithe just means 10%. So that's kind of a redundant 10% tithe. But they also had other giving obligations that came every few years, so that in certain years when they'd have certain festivals, you were giving close to 20 and 30% of your income, which at that time was typically like in livestock and crops, but you'd be giving a much larger percentage those specific years. And so if you were looking to the Old Testament to be like, I must give the 10% because if I don't, then I won't receive the blessings and I won't be in favor with God. That's having that same Old Testament or Old Covenant mindset versus, I really just want to glorify and honor God because he sent Jesus to die on behalf of my sins and he paid all of my debt. Like all of my sins have been forgiven. And so therefore I understand everything that I have is his already. And I just want to give abundantly. It really should push us to give more and to give more freely and to give more excitedly and open-handedly, all these things, like what Paul was saying in 1 Corinthians, 7? That it you need to that we should, or 1 Corinthians 9:7, or 2 Corinthians, gosh, the one where he's talking about where we should give 2
Corinthians 9:7.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We shouldn't give under compulsion and we shouldn't give reluctantly. We shouldn't be sitting here well, should I give this much or that much, or is it this percentage or that, or this before taxes, after? When we get into those nitty gritty, it's really showing us, or it's really revealing to ourselves that maybe there's something a little off in our heart and God is asking you to just give it all, basically. And I'm using that kind of figuratively, he just wants us to give. He wants us to love giving because we get to be a part of what he's doing. And the money isn't ours to begin with. It is his. And yeah, there's that one quote, I don't know if you've ever heard it, where, there's a tax accountant who takes care of the finances for some billionaire. And then the billionaire dies one day and his buddy's like, hey, that billionaire that just died, how much did he leave behind? And the accountant goes, well, all of it. And it's yeah, none of it was yours to begin with. It wasn't it's 100% of it did not go with him to heaven. And we want to give now, today, so that way it's not billions of dollars are sitting around, because who knows how it's going to be used after you die. You want to participate today, now, and know where that money's going and that it is advancing the gospel. So,
agreed. And I also want to provide a little bit of encouragement for someone who's like, oh my gosh, I've never given and I feel like I live paycheck to paycheck, even though I have a budget. And, should I even give this small amount of $25? What does my $25 even do? I want to encourage you that in addition to the heart posture behind giving, God also promises blessing with that. He said it's more blessed to give than to receive. He also says in 2 Corinthians 9:6, right before he says that you should have a joyful heart in giving, he says, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. And I have to say, that is one of the harder convictions to follow in scripture personally. And I think a lot of people can agree that yes, God calls us to give. And a lot of times in scripture, especially in the gospels, like Jesus highlights the people who are giving sacrificially. For instance, the woman who gives the 2 talents versus the wealthy man who gives, I don't even know how much, a lot. And the wealthy man gave out of a portion of his abundance, and the widow gave all that she had, even though it was only like 2 talents. And Jesus told his disciples, she has given more, and therefore she will be more blessed, and she will reap more abundantly in heaven, because her heart posture is one of more surrender to the Lord. And God specifically promises us that if we are surrendered to him in every aspect of our lives, our health, our wealth, our money, our children, our life, our houses, everything like that, if we are surrendered to him, he will take care of us. And that is not like, it's not an option for God. Like, he promises that it will happen. Now, he does not promise how it will happen or what exactly it will look like. And so I think a lot of people take that verse that I just mentioned, whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly, whoever sows generously will reap generously. And they think of that specifically just in like financial terms. And that's not always the case, because obviously if you're giving $50, you're not going to automatically receive $100 back. Like, that's just not how it goes. But by giving that amount of money, you reap generously in terms of your mindset, your joy, your outlook on life, and also, like, a lot of people say that this could be a selfish motivation, but let it be your motivation that you would reap abundantly in heaven. Because as we obey God this side of heaven, you know, it affects what our eternity is going to look like. And so, following the Lord, he promises to provide for us. And I think giving sacrificially, I know personally when we have given sacrificially, the Lord has just made it work. Like, he has provided in every way, shape, or form, more so than we could ask or imagine. And oftentimes in more than just financial means. He's provided in like emotional abundance and spiritual abundance. And our relationship with God gets closer. And suddenly those little things that were so stressful before are just not anymore, because our focus is on the Lord. He says, in Matthew chapter 6, he says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so as we place our money intentionally put our money in places, it is an immediate reflection on our heart posture and where we put our cares. What exactly in the world do we care about the most?
That's a good point. You kind of mentioned a little bit about like, what is the purpose of the money that we are even given to begin with? Because if we're expecting that we're going to give money away and then get stuff back, it kind of defeats like that makes money about us, right? It makes money about your own comforts, your own security, your own happiness and pleasures, versus the fact that we are taught from so many of the disciples that the money that we are given is not for ourselves, but for the benefit of others. And so I think it's also in 2 Corinthians 9. I think it's a little bit later.
2 Corinthians is just loaded with financial.
I know. Like, gosh, I think, it's all in 2 Corinthians 9. I think it's a few verses later after ones we've talked about, but it's like, you will be made rich, like in every way, so that you can be generous. like on every occasion, basically. It's like you're given money, like God gives you money so you can go be generous to others. Like
Well,
that.
he even says that in, I think, Genesis, with the blessing of Abraham. He blesses Abraham, who, mind you, was a very wealthy man. And he tells Abraham, you are blessed to be a blessing. Like,
Yes.
God blesses us in order to further that along for the kingdom of God. We are blessed to be a blessing. We are not blessed for our own benefit. And yes, it does benefit us when we give and we bless others. There's like a secondary benefit to us, but that's not the sole purpose of the blessings that the Lord has bestowed upon us and trusted us with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also in maybe one of the Peter books that talks about how like we're given everything we need in order to live a godly life. And so again, it's like that idea of like, I mean, even so, Paul Tripp, my favorite book that I love recommending to people is called Redeeming Money, and it's by Paul Tripp. And he goes through actually the Lord's Prayer, and he talks about, what was the part in it? When you ask for your daily bread. So, the part of the prayer where it's like asking for the daily bread, but it's the idea of, yes, thank you. I'm like forgetting the exact words at this moment. It's not only like a prayer of asking for what we need. Like it's like, okay, Lord, I like provide for me the things that I need. But it's also a prayer for being content, like a contentment prayer of like, God, again, Chrissy mentioned this, God will provide for you exactly what you need. You need to learn to be content with what God has provided you because he provides for you exactly what you need. And so if you feel like you're in a place where you have too little money or too little resources or too little of something, instead of just saying, I need more, Lord, please bless me and provide for me and all these things, I would recommend changing that prayer and just asking, Lord, help me to live on the things that you have given me and be content with that. Like if you have given me only $2,000 to live on every single month, help me to live within that budget and be content with that. And that might mean putting together a budget so that you can be a good steward of those resources. Like I really do believe that a budget is one of the most incredible tools that we have at our disposal as Christians, because it shows the Lord that we want to be responsible, that we can be responsible, that we are good stewards of the resources that he has given us and that we can manage it well. Because again, like I don't even know where this Bible verse is, but it's the one, it's like, well, I mean, it's kind of like the parable of the talents. Like if you can show that you are faithful with little, he will know that you can be faithful with more. And so if he's giving you $2,000 a month to live on and you keep grumbling and complaining about what he has given you, instead of figuring out how to live on a budget with that much money and being content, he's not going to give you more if you can't figure out how to just manage the little bit that he's given you, when he knows that it is enough for you to do something with right now, right here. And so he wants to see that you'll be faithful and give the $10 that you can, like the only $10 that you can give. Like he wants to know that you will give that and trust him with that so that he can entrust you with more. And then, yeah, at that point you can continue to give more and more, like larger amounts, but he sees the more in the little tiny minuscule amounts, just like that widow who gave, the 2 coins. So it's like, it's like a test. And I hate saying that because I'm like, it is, but it isn't. Like, it's not like God's like, let me see what he's going to do right now, but at the same time, I think he kind of does. Like, he's like, I want to know that you can be responsible. And I think as parents, we kind of do the same things. As our kids get older and mature, we want to know that they're mature enough to handle certain things. You know, I think there's the Anne Frank quote about suitcases. Do you know where I'm going? Have you heard this one before? So
Nope.
Anne Frank,
Have to say,
her dad
didn't really look much into Anne Frank growing up.
Okay. I only know this quote because I think it makes so much sense in so many applications. But it's like a heavy suitcase, and she's like, "No, Dad, I've got it. I'll carry the suitcase." And he's like, "No, honey, this, like, you could potentially, you know, drag it along and it's going to be really heavy, but I will carry this because there are some burdens that are too heavy for little children to bear." And it's like, you need to get to a point where you're strong enough to bear certain burdens. And it's just that maturing. Like, there are certain things in life that parents want to see their kids are strong enough to handle. And so, like, there are reasons why we don't share with our kids all of our money struggles that we might be having as a family, because that's not a child's responsibility. It's a parent's responsibility to manage that. And so you don't want to, like, burden your children with the stresses of finances when they're too young to handle it. So it's the same reason why God, I think, takes his time with seeing if you are faithfully mature enough, like spiritually mature enough to handle more money. And yeah, then you start asking questions of like, well, why are certain people blessed with lots of money and they clearly aren't Christians and all this stuff. And there's I don't know where this is, maybe somewhere in the Old Testament, but you know, when it rains on the faithful and the unfaithful, you know, like the Christians and non-Christians. Like, the rain will, and in this instance, gosh, I'm like stumbling on my words because I know that we're also up on our time. The rain is the blessing when they had their crops. You know, it was good fortunes when you would have rain on your crops because it made your crops grow, and that was a good thing. But it's like, when it rains, the rain doesn't just choose to rain on the people who follow God versus not. I mean, God could do that, definitely. But it's like everybody's blessed. It's like common grace, right?
And also, I think there is a level, like, when it comes to asking the question of like, well, why do people who don't follow Christ, like, why are they so wealthy and I'm over here like still trying to make it paycheck to paycheck? And I think there's also the spiritual component of that, of the enemy is also at work here. And oftentimes, as we have all experienced, comfort and security are very powerful tools that the enemy uses to keep people away from coming to know Jesus. Because ultimately, coming to know Jesus is surrendering and saying, God, I can't do this on my own. I need you to help me. And if the enemy can keep individuals in a very comfortable, secure position to say, I don't need the Lord, I can handle all of this on my own, I got enough to cover it, then the enemy has won their soul. And that's what he wants. But God calls us to something greater. God calls us to surrender. God calls us and he says, I love you so much. I gave everything. I gave my life for your sake so that you can come to me freely, so that you can honor me with everything that you have and everything that you are and everything that you do, so that I can be with you and I can bless you abundantly in those ways, in everything that you are and everything that you say and everything that you do, you know. And God's promise is that he is with us no matter what happens, no matter where we go. He doesn't promise that the Christian life is going to be rainbows and butterflies, because it's not. Like, life is not rainbows and butterflies this side of heaven. But when God is with us, we have that joy that comes with it. And the sacrifices are not so big, you know. because God is with us and He's bigger than all of the sacrifices that we can make. And so I just want to leave you guys with that as we are coming to a close on our episode. Some extra thoughts to linger on. I would encourage you to go ahead and do your own Bible study on what it means to be a cheerful giver and how does giving affect your health and your mental health, your spiritual health, emotional health overall, because it does. And it's a very important aspect of it. We say on this podcast quite frequently that health has 5 different aspects to it. There's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, and financial. And giving is part of that financial health that benefits the rest of them. So I would encourage you, go do your own Bible study on this. See what God actually has to say about giving, and don't just leave it at that. Take action, because that's what God wants. The Bible means nothing if you're not going to do anything from it. It's living and active. It's sharper than a 2-edged sword. So allow it to penetrate your soul. Allow it to work in your life so that you can commune with the Lord and draw nearer to Him and feel His presence on a daily basis. And as you go about your day and in your conversations and things like that. So I'm going to leave you guys with that one. And to close our episode, one last food for thought. Remember that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to Crunchy Stewardship.